everyone, class is in session and Survivor Series is right around the corner. That's right, with all the crown jewels and super showdowns and evolutions going on all over the place, it's quite strange to remember that Survivor Series is actually just a less than a week away now. So this was the go-home edition for Survivor Series, and I was surprised to hear that. I was like, whoa, why are you choosing your team so quickly? Like, let's have a bit of thought and a bit of scouting and a bit of foresight and some tactics. Then I thought, no, they're right to be choosing their teams quickly. It's literally about 5 days away. So yeah, I'm Jack from Cultaholic.com, and this is Raw Graded, Survivor Series Go Home Edition. So we start Raw not with a talking opening promo talky segment, no, with a match. And I'm immediately very, very suspicious. So this is a match featuring pretty much the whole Raw Tag Division. Bobby Roode and Chad Gable are there, the Ascension are there, the Lucha House Party are there, I guess they're a tag team now on Raw. It's just never sort of been explained why they've come over from 205 Live and no one else has. And yeah, it's alright, it's all going okay, as Battle Royals do for about a minute or two, and then Braun Strowman's music hits the speakers. Strowman runs in and makes the entire Raw Tag Team division and a sizable chunk of the Raw roster as a whole look terrible, look like they can't fight, look like they can't defend themselves. Yes, he's a massive monstrous man, but there's lots of them. And there's only one of here. It's like the grasshoppers and the ants from Bug's Life when they realise, oh, there's loads of us. We can stop this big grasshopper now. I've really dumbed down the sort of heart behind Disney film A Bug's Life. The worst part for me is that the stipulation of this match was that the winning team captains the Raw tag team, if that makes sense, at Survivor Series. And you know, Bobby Roode and Heath Slater were still very much in this match, and they decided to run away from Braun rather than try and win it for their team, which I found abhorrent. The match didn't even have a proper end. Strowman just stood in the ring, grabbed a microphone and said, right, I'm done chasing Baron Corbin around now. I'm not going to leave this ring until he comes out here and gets these hands. And you've just pissed away so annoyed. So many wrestlers and made them look rubbish. Cheers, Braun. Thank you, mate. I know you're angry, but selfish. It sounds harsh for such an exciting and action-packed opening segment, but I'm honestly going to give it a D+. It gets a plus because I enjoyed it on sort of a visceral level in terms of large man throwing smaller men around. That's, you know, that earns the plus for me. But why is it a D? Well, I think it's sort of indicative of a wider problem with Raw on the whole. Remember back in the days of the Attitude Era, and people harp on about the Attitude Era and how great it was all the time. Not because the wrestling was particularly good, apart from certain pay-per-views that were really strong, but week to week, the wrestling wasn't anything special. It was the storylines. Everyone felt a bit more special than they do today. You can probably count the people on Raw who feel special on one hand. You Lesnar, Rousey, Drew's sort of getting there, but not really, not yet. Rollins sometimes, Ambrose sometimes. You know what I mean? There's a handful of people who win all the time, and everyone else is kind of a chump compared to them. And you can argue, you know, they've only got so many hours to fill, and you know they can't make everyone special, but they managed in the Attitude Era to make a lot of people feel cool and have their own unique pull, whereas now it's such a small number, and Braun just happens to be one of them. I mean, my argument would be they've got 3 hours to fill. So fill it with cool things for cool people. Be cool. D+. Speaking of special and untouchable people on Monday Night Raw, here comes Stephanie McMahon, Star Grace. She's never gonna be demoted. Oh, welcome to the queendom, where the kings bow down. Stephanie says, Braun, look, I know why you're angry, but I need you to channel that anger into Survivor Series on Sunday, so we've got a better chance of beating Team SmackDown. And Braun says, no, I don't care about any of that. I know that people look at me like some kind of mindless meat castle, but I have some things that I want to request of my own, or want to demand of my own, actually. Mindless meat castle was the line that he actually said there, and to me that's quite poetic in sort of a post-World War I kind of uber-modernist, really bleak kind of way. So Strowman and Stephanie strike a little bit of a deal. First, he says he wants a rematch with Lesnar somewhere down the line if he agrees to do this, but also he wants to get his hands on Baron Corbin, and he wants to pick the stipulations for that match. And Stephanie says, right, if you help Team Raw at Survivor Series, you help us win, you get all this, but at the same time, you're not allowed to touch Baron Corbin until then. Ooh. Strowman says, right, fair play. If this deal isn't adhered to, I'm going to go and smash up WWE HQ, which I guess he means Titan Towers, which I want to see so badly, so I'm really rooting for SmackDown. I'm really hoping that SmackDown just embarrass Raw, just so we can see that. Then, you know, Ronda comes out and talks about Becky a little bit, and Stephanie, rather than getting out the ring because Ronda's just so much better and harder than her, and she should be really scared of her. She sort of stands there and tries to applaud her and stuff, and it's a bit annoying. But anyway, Ronda's kind of shoehorned in weirdly. Then Corbin comes out and tries to focus everyone up and goes, come on, we're Team Raw, we're a team. Puts his hand on Ronda, and she just judo throws Corbin onto the canvas, and Strowman and Ronda look really badass. And you know what, this was actually better than the opening portion of the show for me. I'm going to give it a B. I thought it built nicely towards Survivor Series with not a lot of time left really to work with. And also, I don't give it a higher grade just because I thought Ronda's bit was shoehorned in. It felt like they had to cut her actual promo from elsewhere in the show and just shoved it in the middle of this one, I guess. Next up, we got our first proper match of the night. Ember Moon versus Tamina, accompanied by Nia Jax, of course. They're now full heels, yo. It's not ideal. So this match only really, it was an iffy match, and only really had one cool moment that I can think of, which was Ember Moon doing a suicide dive onto Nia Jax on the outside and just sort of bouncing off her, and the move having no effect. That was alright. But the rest of the match was really frustrating. It was a lot of Nia distracting Ember, and eventually Tamina just picked up the win with a Superfly splash, and then they beat Ember Moon down afterwards too. Again, it sounds harsh, but I'm going to also give this a D+. I thought the match wasn't superb. Also, I just want them to give us a reason that, you know, Nia Jax and Tamina are now on the same page. You could argue that it's because of Roman Reigns' announcement, which led to them at Evolution teaming up in the Battle Royal briefly and doing the quick ooh-ah little tribute to Roman, which would be totally fine, but they just haven't expanded on that at all, WWE. They haven't given us any reason, really, apart from they're both Samoan. There you go. It's just a bit like... to me, it doesn't seem like deliberately ambiguous writing. It seems like lazy writing. Also, speaking of Evolution, remember how over Ember Moon was at Evolution? She was one of the most over women on the show, and she was only in the Battle Royal. Anyway, Corey Graves is interviewing Seth Rollins in the ring about his match with Nakamura at Survivor Series, and Rollins goes, you know what? I'm not actually focused on Nakamura right now with all this Ambrose stuff going on, but I'm going to have to because Shinsuke is really dangerous. And Graves is like, that's right, if you don't focus on Shinsuke, he's going to take your head off. And I'm like, Shinsuke's not been portrayed that strong on SmackDown with the US title. Yes, he's a champion, but he seems to just beat Jeff Hardy week in, week out. Then Dean Ambrose appears on the Titantron, sat on the hood of a car next to a burning trash can in a garage or a warehouse somewhere, because I wrote this segment when I was 14. Ambrose cuts a good promo saying that he always used to think that the Shield made him strong, but now he's realised that Seth and Roman and having to have their backs all the time actually made him weak. And Rollins looks really upset by this, and Ambrose burns his Shield vest, his bulletproof armoured vest thing in the fire. No, it's dark and intense, yo. This gets a B+ from me. It was cool, it was intense, it was a little bit cheesy, but you know, it's wrestling, it's fine. Also, it's a shame not to see Rollins wrestle on the show, but I get you can't have Seth Rollins wrestling a long match every week. You know, you need to mix it up a little bit. So I get it, B+. Next up, Kurt Angle's music hits, but it's not Kurt Angle at all. It's Dolph Ziggler pretending he's going to be Kurt Angle making his entrance, but it's just Dolph, accompanied by Drew. I've got a theory about Dolph. So there's certain little things in wrestling that happen sometimes, usually with heels, where it's like The Miz entering as The Rock, or CM Punk entering as Jeff Hardy, or dropping a title and walking away for no reason and making everyone confused, like why has he vacated that belt, or coming in at 30 at the Royal Rumble and annoying everyone because you've weaseled your way into number 30 when you're a heel. And that usually happens to guys like once in their careers, once each. One of those things will happen, like entering as your opponent, or coming in at 30 at the Rumble, or something significant like that. Ziggler seems to get these things all the time. He came out to Angle's music on a normal Raw for no real reason when it wasn't even him that beat Angle last week. Maybe that's the point of Dolph. Maybe that's why I'm supposed to hate him. I don't know. But anyway, I just feel as though Dolph must pitch these ideas backstage constantly. He's dropped about 5 pipe bombs in his career so far, I'm sure, and none of them have hit quite like he wants them to. And I reckon that maybe backstage Dolph just pitches and pitches, which is great. You know, maybe more wrestlers should do that. But it seems as though WWE just kind of go, Dolph's just not stopped pitching ideas for him, and they all make him look really badass and cool, so let's just give him one. Give him the Kurt Angle music one this time. But anyway, you know, Dolph's alright here actually. I feel like I've been a bit harsh on him there. He's decent, he plays his role well, and Drew cuts one hell of a heel promo, full of lines like, Raw is my show now, I'm gonna mold it in my image, or I didn't give Kurt Angle any dignity because dignity isn't alright. I was like, whoo, calm down, Drew, you big legend. I hope you're the next champion, sir. I'm less convinced, however, by the promo of Finn Bálor, who comes out to confront Drew and says, I'm going to beat you up and stand up to you because you're a bully and you bully Kurt Angle, and I've dealt with bullies all my life and I've always stood up to them, and look at me now. And I thought, have you dealt with bullies all your life, Finn? You handsome 8-pack like Irish accented man. I guess if you went to school in Ireland, you might get, but everyone would have that accent, I suppose. Yeah, who might have judged Finn? You know what? Maybe he did. This has been a soul-searching episode so far. A lot of guilt weighing on my shoulders for some reason. This was a good little sort of 10-minute match between Dolph and Bálor. Bálor wanted Drew, but Drew went, no, you can have Dolph. Playing on potential future tensions between Drew and Dolph, because Dolph won't like being treated like Drew's underling, of course. But he and Bálor had a good match. Had a unique finish as well. Bálor went for the coup de grace. Dolph rolled out of the way, rolled up Finn, but Finn reversed the roll up into one of his own. 1, 2, 3, and Finn Bálor is now added as well to the men's Survivor Series team. I'm going to give this a B+. There was a lot to like here. There was a really good opening promo by Drew McIntyre. Great little match between Dolph and Finn, and also Finn gets added to the Survivor Series team, so a bit of storyline progression too. Lovely. Great little segment. Don't know why I'm applauding it. Next up, Ronda Rousey is backstage, and I know it's a backstage promo and not a significant part of the show really compared to what happens at the end, which we'll get to. But this was weird to me. This was odd, wasn't it? Ronda cuts a promo on Becky where she says Becky's a millennial and she's entitled, and that being offended doesn't mean that you're right. And I was like, where's this come from? Have I stumbled into the wrong part of Reddit or something? What's going on here? I'm going to give this an E, and I've written some thoughts on this one to get my point across really. I've put Ronda's delivery was fine, and it's not a huge part of the show, it's a backstage segment, but it's like they've totally missed the point of Becky Lynch. Becky has such momentum behind her, and they're making her out to be an entitled brat, which she's not. She's clawed for everything, and that's why we love her so much. Also, that vague sort of statement about being offended doesn't mean you're right. Well, that was just shoehorned in by some writer with an agenda, wasn't it? It makes no sense in the context of the storyline. Unless I missed something, did Becky say she was offended that Ronda thought she could beat her? Which is a normal wrestler thing to say. It's not... This was all kind of one of those weird things where it's like acting as though Becky's offended all the time, and that, you know, cheapens the impact. I'm offended that this segment was written so badly, and that doesn't mean I'm right. But I am in this case. E. Next up, Ruby Riott is in the ring with her squad, and they talk about, well, not very happy things, to be fair. Ruby Riott talks about how she's glad. It's a fake apology, basically. She goes, I'm sorry that I broke your dad's sunglasses, Natalya. No, I'm not. I loved every single second of it. We've seen WWE heels do this all the time since the beginning of time. Ruby Riott does not apologise for breaking Jim the Anvil Neidhart's sunglasses. She actually loved doing it, and this makes her just an uber heel, one that I'm not sure chimes well with me at all. Natalya runs out. It's a 3-on-1 beatdown, and Ruby Riott's really happy. Yay. So this gets a D for me. There are just too many questions here. Like, why does Ruby Riott suddenly love disrespecting the dead? And why suddenly does Ruby Riott hate Natalya with such a passion that she needs to disrespect her dad? And also, what was with that heart attack there with at the end? Like, Ruby Riott and Sarah Logan did a fake heart attack on Natalya, the double team Heart Foundation move. Ruby was playing Brett, and no, I can't remember. It didn't look that impactful. I'll just say that. But yeah, this segment as a whole just gets a D for me. Didn't enjoy it too much. Next up, we finally get that battle royal that was meant to open the show. There's not much to report. It lasted a few minutes. Gable and Roode won, and now they're the captains of the Raw tag team at Survivor Series. But not at Survivor Series, it turns out. It's going to be on the pre-show, which I'm really sad about. I love the traditional Survivor Series matches. I'd love to have all 3 of them on the main show, you know? Anyway, this gets a question mark grade because I don't know what to grade it, because we already know that none of them can wrestle, because Braun made them all look like idiots at the start of the show. So, it gets a question mark from me. Next up, it's Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar. They get in the ring. Heyman hypes up the match at Survivor Series. He's always great at it, but sometimes it does get a little bit tiresome because no matter how good the delivery is, the situation doesn't change. It's Brock Lesnar defending the title against someone that we know he's going to beat. In this case, he's not defending the title. I get it. It's a title versus title match. No, it's not. It's a non-title match against the WWE champion, AJ Styles. But we kind of heavily suspect that Lesnar's going to pick up another victory, just as he did last year against AJ Styles. Lesnar's doing his little bouncy dance around. Heyman's going, you know, he's going to beat AJ. Rah! Then Jinder comes out. So Jinder Mahal and the Singh brothers come out to the ring, and Jinder goes, I know how dangerous AJ Styles can be. I lost to him last year. Love that continuity, but, you know, why is he in this promo segment? Jinder goes, now I just want to focus everyone's minds and make everyone all tranquil, and that'll be cool. And Lesnar, you know, invites him into the ring and stupidly does. And then him and the Singhs get destroyed by Lesnar, like F5s chucked into each other. They take some rough bumps here. Lesnar wasn't messing about. I don't think he likes Jinder very much. Or maybe just gets excited when he sees a smaller man like one of the Singhs that he can just flip. And if he flips them hard enough, maybe they'll take off crashed through the ceiling of the arena. This gets a B-, by the way. It was okay. Heyman was great as per usual, but it was a bit of a filler segment, wasn't it, for Lesnar versus AJ. I hope things are alright. Next up, it's Elias versus Bobbington Lashley feat Lio Rush. Before the match, Elias cuts a promo on the heels saying, "Oh Bobby, you stole a kid from child services, gonna have to phone them up." And then he gets his phone out and goes, yeah, he looks about 10 years old. Ha, ha. Because Lio Rush is small. Lio Rush gets revenge about 2 minutes into the match between Elias and Bobby Lashley, grabbing onto Elias's leg to prevent him from beating the count back into the ring and giving Bobby Lashley the win. And then afterwards, Elias throws Lio Rush into Lashley, but it's all said and done. Damage is done, Elias. You fool. You fool. I think this also means that Bobby Lashley is now added to the Raw Men's Survivor Series team as well. So this gets a C+. It was fine. It was straight down the middle, so I was going to give it a C, but I'm giving it a plus because Elias is so over that it makes his segments a little bit more fun than they normally would be. Next up, it's the Raw Women's Captain, Alexa Bliss, and her team is being announced for the Survivor Series match on Sunday. She announces that her team will be Tamina, Nia, Natalya as well, I guess, even though she doesn't like it. Mickie James, and the final member of the team will be the winner of this next match. Sasha versus Bayley. We're getting Sasha versus Bayley on Raw. Have our dreams come true? Not exactly. They don't get too much of a match. It's good for what it is, and it builds kind of nicely. There's a belly to Bayley on the apron onto Sasha, which is really, really nice. But at the same time, it's not full-on Sasha versus Bayley. It's not, you know, quite what we know they can do. But the match never gets a finish because the heels actually attack both women towards the end for the double DQ, and then Alexa announces Ruby Riott as the actual final member of the Survivor Series squad. It's annoying, but it makes sense for Alexa Bliss's character to do. But it's annoying. I'm gonna give it a B- because it was okay. But it felt like a bit of a waste of time, but I see why it wasn't, but I'm really wrestling with my emotions here. B- it is. But then we cut to backstage and Becky Lynch is here and she's got a disarmer on Ronda Rousey in the locker room. What's going on? It's all Raw's just kicked into a higher gear just so soon before the end of the show, and I'm like, what's going to happen now? Becky lets go of the disarmer because there's a few referees trying to make her stop. She's like, the man is here, the champ. Walks to the ring. I'm like, this is like stone cold. What's going on? She walks down the ringside, swaggering like Vince McMahon. The Raw women are in the ring all going, come on then, there's 5 of us. We can totally do this. Becky's like, oh yeah? Here we go. All the SmackDown team come out from the crowd and beat up the Raw women's team. Oh my god, it's kicking off. It's like Under Siege all over again. And Shayna wasn't even there. I said Shayna there. Shayna McMahon wasn't even there to be the best in the world and do that and win the NXT Women's Championship. Shayna McMahon. So to recap, the SmackDown Women's Survivor Series team are Sonya Deville, Naomi, Asuka, Carmella, and Charlotte Flair. I wouldn't have minded if Charlotte had been absent for this attack because her and Becky should still really have residual hatred from that last woman standing match at Evolution and the whole feud, surely. Ronda comes out to help even the odds, but Becky beats her down with a chair, and at some point Becky's been busted open and her nose is bleeding and she looks badass, and then the SmackDown women get the better of the fight and they sort of retreat through the crowd a little bit, and Becky just stood in the crowd looking at Ronda from the crowd, blood just all, and she's like, come on, and I'm like, this is your show. The whole WWE product is now Becky's show. This is insane. It was an insane ending to Raw. I'm going to give this an A. It was excellent for all the obvious reasons. I'm not going to give it an A+ for 2 reasons though. 1, because Charlotte Flair was there and I didn't really like that. And 2, I can't get rid of this sense of creeping dread that Ronda's going to beat Becky clean in about 6 minutes at Survivor Series. But we'll see how it goes. And let's get on to the overall grade for this week's Raw. So Raw overall gets a C+ grade, which sounds a little bit harsh considering the strong ending with Becky Lynch and everything. But there was enough sort of negative stuff on the show to balance it out, I feel. I'm talking about like Ronda's backstage promo, which was strange, where she called it basically a snowflake. The whole Ruby Riott thing, I don't really buy it, being really horrible to Natalya, and the whole Jim Neidhart thing. Also, Nia and Tamina's alliance needs to... I'm just ripping on the women's division, aren't I? The women's division, it wasn't the strongest week for them, to be fair. Even though we got a Sasha and Bayley main event. But the good stuff on the show kind of helped just outweigh the bad with the help of that ending segment as well and Becky Lynch. But like Rollins was great, Ambrose was great, Drew was great, Dolph and Finn had a good match, you know. Dolphin. On that cheery note, let's end it here. I've been Jack from cultaholic.com. Thank you very much for watching Raw Graded. And you can follow me on Twitter if you want to, at Jack the Jobber. You can follow all of us as well at Cultaholic and check out our Patreon too, patreon.com/cultaholic. And never forget, of course, if you haven't already, to hit subscribe and to join us.